Yeah, at Desawe Kanda, also live on TV on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, pro-government group counters Occupy Jubilee House protesters in the UK. There's a UK version of it, as the protesters accuse the High Commissioner of refusing to accept their petition. We'll hear from both sides how it all went down in the UK. Stay with us. Labour tonight, the Trade Union Congress serves notice it will head to the courts to challenge the law that prohibits security personnel from joining labour unions. We have a security expert and a labour expert on this matter tonight. Also, we'll take a look at the sorry state of some national heritage sites with a focus on the ancient Bole Mosque, which is currently in a deplorable state. The executive director of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board is our guest. As always, let's hear from you. You have a say in what we say here on Ghana Tonight. The hashtag, as always, is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and X or Twitter. Join us. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Ghana High Commission in London today witnessed a clash between anti-government and pro-government groups. Attempts by the anti-government group to picket at the UK High Commission in London over the current economic challenges in Ghana was scuttled by a pro-government group.
If you guys knew about legislation, I would go through it.
Minority in Parliament says they will not be cowed in any attempt by the police to injunct the October 3 Occupy BOG demonstration. Minority Chief Whip Kwame Gavin Sagbuja noted that the police cannot be arbitrary in their dealings after an Accra High Court found processes served on organizers to be incomplete.
We have had further discussions with the police, and the police officially wrote to us confirming that Tuesday is the day they are ready to let us do the demonstration, and the route has been approved. But all of a sudden we hear the police in bad faith attempting to resurrect an issue which does not exist. So I'm happy the court threw their case away today.
The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has expressed discomfort over the President's delay in assenting to the anti-witchcraft bill 2 months after Parliament passed it. Commissioner of Strat Joseph Withal asserts that the delay in addressing the issue can exacerbate wrongdoing against victims and other vulnerable groups. His reaction comes on the back of the killing of a 60-year-old woman accused of being a witch in Northeast region.
Any day that is delayed in the signing into law of this bill is a day that leads to the torture of elderly women. And as of last week, one more woman has been killed.
The Health Ministry is to seek Cabinet approval for an emergency fund for modern equipment procurement for the Kolebu Teaching Hospital renal unit. A Deputy Minister of Health, Alhaji Mahama Asei Seni, who made this known on the sidelines of an event in Accra, referred to the health emergency at Kolebu Teaching Hospital as potentially fatal if not addressed promptly.
Normally, because these agencies are autonomous a bit, they take up certain decisions before even the ministers are aware. So this one, we'll have to investigate and find out what we'll do.
The Ghana National Fire Service says it suspects built-up pressure in the gas pipeline as cause of the Friday morning fire near the Tema Oil Refinery. A gas booster station, Quantum Gas, near the Tema Oil Refinery's pipeline caught fire on Friday morning. Reports indicate that the company was transferring gas from vessels at the port to the booster station for distribution to terminals in the area when the incident occurred. Managers of the Tema Oil Refinery say no damage has been recorded yet. Meanwhile, the Ghana National Fire Service says companies that shut down as a result of the fire can resume operations.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, pro-government group counters the Occupy Jubilee House protesters, this time in the UK, as the protesters accuse the High Commissioner of refusing to accept their petition earlier today. We'll hear from both sides on this matter. And these are the protesters you see on the screen there. But the Ghana High Commission in London today witnessed a clash between government and pro-government groups. So you could say that's anti-government or the state of affairs in this country raising specific concerns, and then another pro-government group, sort of. Now, attempts by the group that were protesting about the issues happening in this country picket at the UK High Commission in London over the current economic challenges in Ghana. They were also confronted, some form of scuttling, by another pro-government group. These are some of the videos you're seeing on the screen right now of what happened, and then also the near clash between these two groups of Ghanaians in the UK, and one talking about the economic situation and everything that is happening in this country. Reason why the Occupy Jubilee House protesters last weekend in Ghana also sought to occupy the frontage of the Jubilee House. Those same reasons were on the basis of that this other group of Ghanaians in the UK also carried those same issues on the streets of London. What we're learning is that the protesters made an attempt to present a petition to the Ghana High Commissioner to the UK, Papa Osuankoma. But I'm going to show you a video. This is what the protesters are saying, that he refused to hear from them or even take the petition because they did not send an email ahead of today before they showed up. Take a look.
To the UK, Papa Osuankoma, but he will not give them a listening ear.
Your citizens are here to address you. You are literally leaving. You are leaving. You are leaving. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Don't sit down. Sir, talk to us. Sir, we came to meet you. Sir, talk to us before you leave.
The protests, meanwhile, has continued on social media platforms as young people continue to demand more from government.
No.
Language can be applied.
But so those were Ghanaians. So one group saying that, you know what, all is not well. We're also sympathizing with the Ghanaians here and the reasons why there was this Occupy Jubilee House protest. It's about a week ago. It was going on. They carried those same concerns to the UK, the streets of London. Another group of Ghanaians, pro-government group, identified mostly as MPP members in the UK, also sought to counter that. Well, these are the reasons why they hit the streets in the first place. This is it. The UK protesters, where the placards that they were holding had these inscriptions about increased minimum wage, better education system, better healthcare system, unemployment, accountability. These were the reasons why the Ghanaians in London sought the audience of the High Commissioner, Papa Osuankoma, and they actually were guided and allowed by the police to protest at the frontage of the High Commission. These reasons. So let's get two people from both sides, those who were protesting, raising these issues, and this other group of NPP persons as well who put themselves together to counter the protest. David Ajayi is the convener of Occupy Jubilee House UK, the UK branch. And then you have the Richmond Kwame Boateng, who's the organizer of the NPP UK. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I'll first start off with you, David. Now, did you achieve the objective for which you went on this protest earlier today?
I mean, first of all, what we wanted to do was also to support our brothers and sisters back home in Ghana because, of course, we know the ongoing issues that's been happening in Ghana. And obviously, as diasporans over here in the UK as well, we thought it was only right for us to lend our voice to support back home. And also, number two, to pass on a message to our leaders, letting them know that the youth of the country are actually fed up, we're tired. So location does not keep us bound, but wherever we are, we're united with a voice. So it's very important for us to pass our message through the voice and through what we're saying.
I see. So if with this issues that you went to the High Commission with, which we put on the screen not too long ago, did you get any responses to them, at least from an official or the High Commissioner himself?
I mean, the truth is that I personally have sat down with the High Commissioner a few times. The truth is that every single time that I've sat with him, I've sat down with him twice. And every single time I've sat down with him, letting him know that, of course, the diasporans over here want to find ways in which we can impact Ghana because, you know, it looks like the diasporans are not doing anything back home. But of course, I myself, you know, personally, I've impacted and done so many things for the youth back home in Ghana. And of course, with the messages that I've been hearing is that diasporans have been trying to reach out to the Ghana High Commissioner, and at every attempt that they try to reach out, they've been unsuccessful. And it's, you know, it's a matter of urgency now, whereas we want to be able to do more works in Ghana. However, every time we reach out to them, the right protocols that we follow are not being successful. So it's like we're even tired ourselves. And that's the reason why we also had to make it a matter of urgency to speak out this morning.
I see. David, stay with me. Now, Richmond Boateng, you're the organizer of the MPP in the UK. You also put together a group of MPP supporters to counter these concerns that your fellow Ghanaians were protesting about, which is the reality that's facing here back home. So was it that you didn't identify with the concerns of your fellow Ghanaians who were protesting, or you just wanted to do it because you're MPP?
Thank you. Well, I don't think we didn't identify with what the protesters had in mind or what they planned to do. It was very much a case of also concerned Ghanaians who felt that the government is doing well in spite of all the challenges that is facing the country. So they just couldn't just look on. They have to also make their voice heard that, look, the government is doing well in spite of all the challenges facing the country at this minute. So I think that was the main reason why the concerned Ghanaians were also out there in their numbers.
I see, but you see, Richmond, the people who were there, they were protesting about the challenges, which you acknowledge that there are indeed challenges. That's what they were protesting about. So, and you identify with it. So why then mass up another group of people to come and counter the same challenges that you identify with? Reason why this other group was also protesting?
I don't think anyone will be oblivious to the fact that there are challenges anywhere else in the world, for that matter. So yes, there are challenges in the UK. There are challenges in every Western country as we do have it, and Ghana is no exception. I mean, even being a developing country, so we do acknowledge that.
But yes, you acknowledge that, you know. But every time there's always that chorus about what's happening in other countries as well. But we are faced with the realities here in Ghana. Okay, so the people who are listening to you right now are watching our fellow Ghanaians out there protesting about the realities that people back home are facing. And so if you had another group go and counter this same group, Ghanaians for that matter, should be concerned, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. There are challenges. I don't think, as I said, I don't think we do have families in Ghana. I do have families in Ghana. I left Ghana, I think, about 2 months ago. So I am not oblivious biggest of the challenges that Ghana faces today. And I must stress that every other developed country is going through the challenges, but some of the successes and some of the things that are being done in Ghana to sort of minimize or to mitigate some of the challenges that the country is facing. I think we should be commending the government for it. We shouldn't be throwing the government out, or we shouldn't be demonstrating against the government, especially in the Western country, as thief. To create the impression that Ghana is actually is crawling on its, so we seem to think that it's not well, even though there have been some huge improvement in our standard of living in Ghana today.
Hey. Well, Richmond, you said there's been huge improvement in our standard of living as a people. Do you know the per capita income in Ghana, Richmond? I want to understand what you mean by there's been a huge improvement in the standard of living. Do you know the per capita income?
Well, you see, some of the things that the government have done is to actually create this enabling environment, and the enabling environment. You actually look at the electricity, even the power supply. That in this. That alone actually created a huge gap in the employment sector. The number of people that were laid off. And I remember even some of the media houses that were actually running their programs on certain hours. Programs could not be actually run throughout the day. So the news or the key item that should be propagated to the good people of Ghana were only truncated to only a small number of hours per day. And I'm sure you are not oblivious to the fact that today things have improved dramatically under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Be it that there are challenges, I don't think anyone will actually be oblivious to the fact, the cost of commodities have risen up, cost of many things have risen up. We still have unemployment in our youth today, but to even have unemployed graduate association in Ghana was something that I think we've never witnessed before. But today, this sort of unemployed graduates, some of them are in employment, some of them are still, for last checks, still under the NAPCO program, amongst other things. So we are enjoying some good successes under the current president.
I see. Richmond, did you say that there are people still on the NAPCO program? Did I hear you say that?
Well, I do know that the NAPCO program has been I think they are actually moving people off it, but the NAPCO program was never to put anyone as an indefinite period. It was to scale the graduates and then move them on to employment. So I think if there are there shouldn't be still people on the program. The people should be actually moving into permanent employment through the program. I think the program was more like a stopgap for my last check. So that is just a small part of trying to help the graduates into employment.
Richmond, so let me put it on record. There are NAPCO trainees who are owed 8 to 9 months of their arrears, so the allowances, just so you know, and the program ended, so they are not on the program. It's not going on. That's number one. And I'm just thinking that as an organizer of the MPP, you should know this. But the second thing is that how many, because you say a number of them have gained employment, do you know exactly the percentage of the NAPCO trainees who have gained employment after exiting the program?
On top of my head, I won't actually have the figure, but I'm sure the correct corresponding ministry will be able to provide those numbers to us. But I'm very, very, I think what we need to also look at is these programs really did help. We even if the government has been able to achieve 10%, 20% of employability through the program, I think we should be commending the president. I don't know the figure, but I'm pretty sure it will be in higher upmost probably around 50-60%. And if that has been achieved, that should be very something that we should encourage. I mean, if you remember not long ago,
Richmond, that's so you know what, you consider that you didn't know the numbers in terms of the number of NAPCO trainees who have gained permanent employment. I was hoping you're going to end there. If you get into statistics, say 50 to 60% of them have been employed. Where did you get that figure from?
Well, to be honest, if you look at the number of students that and the number of graduates that went into that program, of well over 100,000 in one go, and for some of the publications that I've cited in the past, in terms of the channeling of these graduates into permanent employment, I think, and it wasn't just about channeling them into permanent employment, and I think the program was also serving as a stopgap for these graduates to be able to go off and start.
All right, Richmond, thank you very much, Richmond Boateng, thank you. But David, so we saw the video of the Ghana High Commissioner to the UK walking away while you were protesting. So how did that get to you in the first place, to the extent that you didn't get the opportunity to submit your petition as you intended?
Well, I mean, of course, the system works here 24/7, and that's the reason why things run through very smoothly, because the system works. When system works, laws are already laid down that helps the citizens to literally flow through smoothly. Of course, when we heard about the protest, we just thought, like I said, it is only right that we also lend our voice to help and support our brothers and sisters. So, I mean, there are two functions over here in London. When you're doing a protest and gathering at a particular spot, one, you don't have to involve the police. It is only when you're having a march, that's when, of course, the police has to be notified. And even with that, there is no form of delay or rejection. The police will always be at the call of the people. And that's the reason why people appreciate this country, London, because the police will always be at the call of the people. So, of course, knowing the law itself, we knew that we didn't have to involve the police, because it's within our right for us to gather at one location and demonstrate. And that's something that we did today. We didn't even have to involve the police. But I mean, the police turned up themselves, and, they did a great job, I must say. The police was very civil with the citizens, and, they really helped to make the day successful as well.
I see, and appreciate it. But then again, also, were you able to eventually get your petition to the High Commissioner after he walked away?
Okay, and I must say this, though, it's very sad, because our leaders have completely let us down. That's the truth. When he was trying to exit the building, in fact, he tried to cover up his face so he could walk out without anyone not seeing him. But of course, being so vigilant, I made sure that I was paying attention to the doors of people that were walking in and walking out. So I noticed when he was walking out, and that's when I decided to get everyone to follow him, because of course we've come all the way here to send across a message. And if he's going to try and walk out, then we're going to have to stop him at all costs. This is not Ghana where you feel like you cannot be stopped. You will be stopped. So of course, when we saw him walking out, we had to stop him and engage with him. And once again, I think the video says it all. It shows us that our leaders are not accountable. In fact, they feel like they're too bossy or too big to engage with us. Again, in London over here, you can't run away from it. We will approach you whether you like it or not. We will. So, of course, saw him walking out. I had to approach him, asked him a few questions. And we all saw, he said he was heading somewhere. He didn't even have the decency, the courage enough to actually speak to his citizen. Didn't have the courage. But, of course, we all saw how everything played down. And, for us, we're saying we're not going to stop. We're going to keep pushing until we get what we deserve as Ghanaian citizens.
Well, thank you. David Ajay, appreciate you. Is the convener for the Occupy Jubilee House UK, and then also joined us earlier, the organizer of the MPP UK, Richmond Boateng. Well, this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, the Trade Union Congress serving notice it will head to the courts to challenge the law that prohibits security personnel from joining labor unions. We have a security expert and a labor expert on this matter. It's turning out to be a very interesting demand from the TUC. Imagine the police service personnel and the soldiers on the streets demanding that their allowances be paid to them. How about that? Stay with me. Austin Game and Richard Komado will be joining us after this quick break. Stay with us.
A Franco Trading Enterprise at the Braka branch. A phones near accessories, and in your make a nadia. When you say Franco Trading Enterprise, number 1. Your television set from 24 inches to 65 inches, air conditioned from 1.5 horsepower to 2.5 horsepower. Your CCTV cameras, Bluetooth speakers, your phone covers, protectors, pen drive, hard drive, iPhone, Samsung, Infinite, Huawei. It's a full beer open with Yasima Fanebia. Pura Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise. Phones papa, television papa, air conditions papa, accessories papa nina.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo Superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period na se problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me modem no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kura mienu hofro kwa na mkwan mu a eba and everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante and then ko end point o mama nura and then ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point wa dance am me call you no me Jones sema na enkoyie empeso na maye mre nyina na magina sebema na me be fie for there e ho na nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. The
2023 district level elections will be held on the 19th of December 2023 from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. When you vote assembly and unit committee members into office, you give them the authority to plan, budget and implement decisions on your behalf, because district assemblies and unit committees are responsible for the development of the areas within their jurisdiction. The assembly determines how much to spend on essential services and infrastructure, for example, healthcare facilities, schools, sanitation services, public transportation, the supply of clean water, local economic development, and security measures within the locality. There is no discrimination against eligible candidates and voters. We must endeavor to vote for the right candidate, irrespective of gender, ethnicity, or disability. A vote for the right candidate is a vote for development. All Ghanaian citizens of 18 years and above with valid voter ID cards should turn out in their numbers to vote for their preferred candidate. Political parties are not allowed in district level elections. Do not sell your vote to any political party undercover. Remember, district level elections happens once every 4 years. The time is now. Your vote is your power. Get involved. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Information with support from the Governance for Inclusive Development Program implemented by GIZ and commissioned by the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development.
Hello! Have you heard of the Franco air condition specially made to fit the Ghanaian weather? It has authentic capabilities, which is the original sizes ranging from the 1.5 horsepower, 2.0 horsepower, and the 2.5 horsepower. So if you are looking for an air condition to fit your homes, offices, schools, hotels, apartments, churches, it's Franco Trading Enterprise. For bulk purchases, look no further than Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise, the home of quality air conditioning.
Throughout this journey, our contestants have faced challenges head-on, using every opportunity to exhibit their talents and introduce the world to the captivating beauty of their region. Warriors! Join us this week for an extraordinary recap episode and immerse yourself once more in the unforgettable highlights of this season. The laughter, the tears, and the awe-inspiring performances that have brought us this far. Don't forget to secure your tickets available at the TV3 front desk and be part of the grand finals at the National Theatre on October 8th. It's a celebration you won't want to miss.
GMB 2023 is sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix, GTP, Techno Common 20 Series, AT, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula, Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup, Key Soup, Bell Pack Tissues, Sankofa Natural Spices, Vitamilk, Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Nescofa Blood Tonic, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, Enapa Foods, Freedom from Casapreco, Frutelli Calipo, Duffy's Health and Beauty, Obuasi Bitters, Nubna Womwankasa, Dragnet, Shalatem, Top Choco.
Save 500.
Global Wings Travel and Tour.
Makeup was done by
Well, welcome back to Ghana Tonight. The Trade Union Congress, TUC, says seeking a Supreme Court ruling to abolish sections of the Labour Act 651 that restrict security officers, police, the military, and others from unionizing. Indeed, is what they're going to pursue next, arguing that the current act violates the rights of these security personnel. Now, the Trade Union Congress is saying it would seek a legal interpretation at the Supreme Court on the restriction of security personnel to also establish labor unions or unions in their various sections, also to abolish sections of the Labour Act 651, which restricts security officers from unionizing. This is the Deputy Secretary General of the TUC.
The TUC is going to court on a number of things. If you look at the first part of Act 651, the scope of the law limits unionization. For example, immigration officers, prison officers, the police, and so on cannot join or form a union to defend their interests. We think that is unconstitutional. And so we have already instructed our lawyer to go to Supreme Court on this matter.
So that's Dr. Yaba, Secretary General of the TUC there. So that they said they are going to the Supreme Court to seek interpretation on the specific portions of the Labour Act 651 that prevents security personnel from unionizing. Richard Kumado is a former personnel of the NIB, that's the National Investigation Bureau, previously Bureau of National Investigations, BNI. Also, Austin Game is a labor expert joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, to establish this, Mr. Kumado, you, as a security former personnel of the BNI, what was the reasoning behind you being restricted from forming a labor union in the BNI, for instance?
Single a rule for all nations in the world. And it's also true to say that most of the nations we benchmark law enforcement best practices from have this notion that national security institutions cannot be unionized. And number two, there are three things involved. Where you have national security at stake, it is just like saying you cannot sue the president. And where you have public safety guarantees and national sovereignty issues at stake, it is proper that the court give credence to national security and prioritize their work. That is to say that, can you imagine a case where all law enforcement agencies have gone on strike? Public safety will be breached because then there's going to be crime everywhere. And in Ghana in particular, there has been a precedent at the Supreme Court, if you remember, where the senior officers of customs have gone to Supreme Court to say that they want to be unionized because they are no longer law enforcement agencies and they have come under GRA. And the Supreme Court ruled in that particular case in 2013 and 2015 that by their functions, they fall under what the Constitution calls in Article 84 and Article 85, that they are law enforcement agencies, and the nature of the services they provided prohibits them from going on strike, which is a typical function of unionized organization. So with this broad-based background, that is what forbids law enforcement agencies in general from unionizing. That is not to say that where there are issues of grievances and they have grieved or something, individuals cannot go to court to seek redress. And it has happened over the years that individuals have stormed the courts and the courts have ruled in their favor and against them in some circumstances. But I can bet my last hope that the Supreme Court of Ghana will not grant any law enforcement agency to be unionized. And if they do, then the permutations will have to be considered carefully, considering national security objectives and public safety guarantee assurances and national sovereignty as a whole. Other than that, we might be playing into the gallery and extending the tenets of this democracy where you do not have enough structures to support it.
Oh, Mr. Kunwado, thank you. Stay with me. And Austin Game is also joining us, a labor expert. Mr. Game, so from the security analyst, as you just heard, Mr. Kunwado, is concerned about the security implication of this thought that even the TUC is considering in the first place, to have the likes of the police, the military, have unions in their fold. But from the labor's perspective, will this suffice, this particular thought they're mulling?
Appreciate the concerns of organized labor, but the reality is that when we were writing the Labor Act, we studied from various countries, and the Secretary General of the TUC and two others and the employees were all with me on all the journeys throughout the various countries. We've come to conclusion firmly, also based upon our 1992 Constitution, the Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 24, 4, and I read to you. It says that restrictions shall not be placed on the exercise of the right conferred by Clause 3. Clause 3 allows everybody to form and join trade unions of the rights except restrictions prescribed by law and reasonably necessary in the interest of national security or public interest, insofar public order or for the protection of the rights and freedom of others. We considered all these things, and also based upon the advice by the International Labour Organization at the time, and looking at the various countries we visited, the Scandinavian, the Far East, Americas, the European countries, clearly very little space or room was given for the police service and the security agencies to form or join trade unions, except that we deliberately did not insert these things into the Labor Act because there were other operating laws already, such as the laws that govern the workings of the military, the police service, and other security and intelligence agencies. And for that reason, we did not find it fit to prescribe it into the law itself. If in the course of making the LI 1833 in particular, something had been inserted at the time when the government had changed hands. I don't know. But by the Constitution, by the 1992 Constitution, as I read from the Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 24(4), whereas everybody is free to form a trade union, the case of the security and intelligence agencies such as CID, the police service, the military, and the likes are not permitted to join. And I can give you an example. As far back as 1979, we've had experience of police people in Ghana here being on strike before. And the consequences were very obvious. Many other trade unions took advantage and went on strike that day. In fact, that was the day when Jayhawk workers, a number of them went on rampage, went to Parliament, the old Parliament, and looted things and fought, and all kinds of things happened. Many others were on strike that day, and it wasn't pleasant even for the eyes to behold.
Indeed. So you see, Mr. Kumado, if this call or this consideration by the TUC is to be giving any hearing in any form, from where you sit, what should be the consideration going forward?
I think the court should just throw it out. There's no consideration given to law enforcement agencies being unionized. And I wonder what would be the argument. But let's even say they want them to unionize. Then there have to be strict rules of terms of engagement and terms of enrollment, that when the court gives ruling, individual institutions will also have their standard policies and regulations at play. That this is the ruling of the court that you can join a union, but when you apply, these are the conditions you have to meet. And if you decide not to, then you have to leave. I remember in the BNI, which I believe it still holds, there's a peculiar something we always laugh our heads off. Do you know that BNI 1 is a secret society? And many of the things they do there cannot even be disclosed to the court, let alone the Supreme Court have access to the things they do. Let alone the president knowing everything that BNI does, or the national security minister. Then again in the BNI, if you want to marry, you have to write application for marriage. And once vetting is done, the BNI can decide that based on the relevant information gathered, or based on their conclusions, if you want to marry Madam A or Mr. A, then you will have to resign. Other than that, it goes against the tenets of their internal operations and the regulations. And so long as you remain an operative, as a Secret Service operative, you cannot marry Mr. A or Madam B. And all over the world, or in most places in the world, this has been some of the guidelines or the guiding principles that covers issues and institutions such as the Secret Service or the BNI. And to the police, there could be some laneways, but I'm thinking the court should just throw it out, and whatever be their grievances, they can address it within the organizations or the institutions they represent without necessarily becoming part
but
of the union.
Mr. Kumado, I have also heard the argument that it is dangerous. In fact, it's more dangerous to have a disgruntled police officer or a soldier, military officer, who is obviously not too happy about either salaries or allowances delaying in arrears, and not having the opportunity to vent their spleen through either demonstrations or protests or strikes, than to also have one that is restricted this way. What's your take on that?
Being granted, there are many ways they protest within, and there are many ways they get rid of these granted elements without the notice of the public. But we are talking about forming a union, which the Labor Act of Ghana, the Act 615, the Act 651, 2003, forbid security agencies of being unionized. The Labor Act recognized that. But to the extent that we are talking about protestations and grievances and aggrieved persons, there are many ways within the law enforcement agencies where such issues have been addressed. But to have law enforcement officers going on a public demonstration, whose house is on fire and who is going to take care of who? once the military step out saying they are going on demonstrations, then that could be an affront. And that is an affront to the Constitution. And that is what we call a coup d'etat, or that is what we call a military takeover, or a treason. And we cannot have that in any civilized country. And I know there are processes and procedures in some other countries where what the police does, or the direct influence of politicians or political parties into the police force or law enforcement in general, is restricted. But marginally or largely, you wouldn't have law enforcement officers going on a strike because of unionization. If you take countries like Britain, just last week, a police officer shot somebody, and it turned out to be a mistake, and the police officer was charged. But because it's a police officer that holds arms, about 300 of the police officers say they want to refrain from holding arms.
I see. Right, but Ms. Kumado, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Richard Kumado is a foreign security consultant and a former staff of the National Investigation Bureau, NIB, previously BNI also. Austin Game, appreciate your time. He's a labor expert. But this is what the issue is, the position of the law. Take a look. As far as we do know, Section 1 of the Labor Act 2003, Act 651, this act applies to all workers. And this is what the TUC is really leveraging on to go to the Supreme Court for interpretation, that this act applies to all workers and to all employers, except the armed forces, the police service, the prison service, and the security and intelligence agencies specified under the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act 1996, Act 526. And in fact, it continues to talk about the various agencies and reason why they cannot go on strike or being described as essential service workers. We'll see what the TUC's path, where it will end. But coming up next, here on Ghana Tonight, the news of its near collapse attracted international attention with calls intensified for its reconstruction. What you're saying, though the locals have begun the reconstruction of this ancient mosque, they believe their efforts would not be enough to keep the over 400 years old mosque alive. We're going to Bole tonight. This Bole mosque is on the spotlight. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. This is Ghana Tonight.
Throughout this journey, our contestants have faced challenges head-on, using every opportunity to exhibit their talents and introduce the world to the captivating beauty of their region. Warriors! Join us this week for an extraordinary recap episode and immerse yourself once more in the unforgettable highlights of this season. The laughter, the tears, and the awe-inspiring performances that have brought us this far. Don't forget to secure your tickets available at the TV3 front desk and be part of the grand finals at the National Theatre on October 8th. It's a celebration you won't want to miss.
GMB 2023 is sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix, GTP, Techno Common 20 Series, AT, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula, Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup, Key Soup, Bell Pack Tissues, Sankofa Natural Spices, Vitamilk, Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Nescofa Blood Tonic, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, Enapa Foods, Freedom from Casapreco, Frutelli Calipo, Duffy's Health and Beauty, Obuasi Bitters, Nubna Womwankasa, Dragnet, Shalatem, Top Choco.
Save 500.
Global Wings Travel and Tour.
Makeup was done by House of Tara.
go down one more time right here in this kitchen. It's the battle between recipes and the mystery box. Which school makes it to the grand finale?
Akraka! Akraka!
We are not here to brag because, as our motto says, actions, not words.
It's gonna be fireworks.
We don't like to talk much, we like to show action.
Sorry. Find out all about this here on TV3 this Sunday, 5 p.m. with me, Cookie T. It is Kitchen Wars Season 2.
Kitchen Wars Season 2, Sundays at 5 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
Sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix.
And Napa Foods. Say Napa. Enye ono soko.
PG.
Welcome back to Ghana Tonight. Now, the collapse of the over 400-year-old mosque in Bole got a number of people worried, both locally and internationally, who are concerned about the preservation of our heritage sites. My colleague Christopher Mwako visited the ancient mosque in Bole and has more in this report.
The historic Bole Mosque, located in the center of Bole, is assumed to be the second oldest mosque in Ghana, after the famous Larbanga Mosque. The presence of the mosque in Bole has not only provided a place of worship for the residents, but also attracted thousands of visitors from far and near. It can boast of a distinctive architectural design, akin to the renowned Larbanga Mosque, built with mud and supported with wooden poles some 400 years ago. The mosque has not seen any major renovation. A look inside the mosque reveals termite infestation of the wooden rafters used to support the roof, forcing it to leak from the top each time it rains. The weak nature of the mosque was further exposed following a downpour on September 17, which flooded the Bole community. Dean Jabakte is secretary to the mosque.
This mosque is one of the oldest mosques in Ghana, and it's located in Bole over 400 years today. And I think it's actually true that it needs renovation. The whole thing is weak. The decking, the wood, the painting and everything in it is actually weak. So it needs a whole lot of renovation, total renovation, so that it can be structured well.
400-year-old mosque in Bole. Kingsley Ofosu Ntiamwa is the executive director of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. So Ofosu Ntiamwa, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Did you hear of the near collapse of this over 400-year-old mosque in Bole?
Okay, first of all, let me say a very good evening to your viewers, Alfred. And yes, I've heard about the collapse of the mosque at Bole. But when I heard it, I was far away in Saudi Arabia for the World Heritage Committee meeting. So when I came back, I asked my men to go on the ground to engage the community. They just returned from Bole yesterday. They're putting their report together. They are putting their report together. By Monday morning, the report will be on my desk. And so it's a concern to all of us. And we are not sleeping over it. We are working assiduously to make sure that conservation works can quickly be done on the mosques.
Well, but Mr. Chairman, the concern goes beyond this 400-year-old mosque that nearly collapsed, in fact, totally, in Bole. It's about the lack of maintenance of these historical sites and monuments that we have in this country. And your institution is charged with that responsibility, is it not, to maintain these sites?
Okay, Alfred, let me tell you. Yes, we are in charge of our movable and immovable cultural assets in the country. But you see, these mosques are in the hands of the communities. And so, when they need technical support, we come in to support them. We come in to give technical advice. So as an institution, it is not only under us, like we have total control over the mosque. It is the communities that has mostly the imams within these communities that has the control over these monuments. But as and when they need technical support, we go around with our experts.
Okay, but Mr. Chama, so I understand the explanation that you're saying the community manages it, but you, as an institution, Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, you cannot take away your eyes off these monuments and historical sites because the institution, as the community, manages them. You also have a responsibility, is it not?
You see, Alfred, it's like I said, when you look at what with the main responsibilities, and then you look at what we do. Yes, ideally we're supposed to be going around all these facilities to make sure, or we're supposed to even have officers within these communities who will be giving us at least daily report, weekly reports and all that, but we don't have that capacity. In terms of workforce, in terms of finance, no, we don't have that capacity. That is why, and except, of course, the World Heritage Site, the proper World Heritage Site, where we have full control over them, where we have staffs, that is where. But apart these ones, we don't have full control over them. The ones that we have full control, yes. But these ones, we don't have full control over them. Like you say that this today, don't go there, don't do this. No, it's the community. And so as and when the community, so what we do is that we try to engage the community as and when we go around to let them know. So that when there are problems within these facilities, we give them the technical support that they will need to be able to conserve these facilities.
Well, maybe so that should.
So unfortunate that it has to happen like that because of the heavy downpour within the modern sector. Is that so? We know that these mosques are spread across the northern sector. No, it's not only Boli. We have some around Dondoli. We have some around Nakori. We have some around Mawuli, Malu. It's about 10 or 11. Bandang Kwanta Mosque is part of them. Laribanga is part of them.
So maybe you should, Mr. Jama, maybe you should just improve on what you're doing together with the community, collaborating with the community to preserve these historical sites, because the maintenance issue is a problem. You've conceded. This has to change so that we can all improve on the benefits that we get as a country from these historical sites. But I thank you. Kinsley Fosu Ntiamwa is the director of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. Thank you for your time here on Ghana Tonight. But these are some of the comments that came through minutes ago about the situation. A number of you posting says, many of you sharing your thoughts with us. Asante Michael, thank you very much for your thoughts. This one says, this is sad, very sad, and really the kind of neglect that will perpetually keep us in Africa in the doldrums that we find ourselves. Cultural and historical artifacts are a source of revenue for a lot of countries. Our leaders have failed us again. Said, let's hold the caretakers responsible. What do they use the revenue they generate from the place for? Have they made complaints to the appropriate authorities, and was that ignored? This is why we say occupy shall be house, you see. Very sad and unfortunate. This mosque stood in front of my family house in Bole in the Savannah region of Ghana. The last time I was in Bole 4 years ago, I was praying in the mosque. Now a whole historical site is gone. Thank you, Mahmoud. The community is trying to rebuild, but they cannot do it by themselves. I want to say thank you for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for Key Point, together with the guests lined up to speak to the key issues that concern you. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great weekend.
This is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.